Hi, welcome to my new channel called Mist and Stone. I'll first address the name, why it's called Mist and Stone. The mist represents the ethereal and the stone represents the material. My channel will be about everything to do with Ireland in particular. Sometimes we'll touch on other parts of the world, but mainly Ireland in particular. And it will cover everything from the mystical Ireland, mythology, spiritual Ireland. It will cover all that end of things. It will also cover historical Ireland, the everyday history of Ireland, hence the mist and the stone. The mist representing the more mystical end of Ireland and the stone representing the more everyday practical end of Ireland. To give you an example, some of the videos that I propose to do over the next short while, tomorrow being Lunasa, when this video is being made, I will be doing a video to release tomorrow on Lunasa, on its traditions, on what it represents, how it came to be, and maybe touch a little bit on how to celebrate it, rituals, so on. But mostly it's tradition and how it came to be. So that represents the mystical, spiritual end. And I'm also, as we're heading into autumn and into the dark end of the year, we will touch on a few of the darker aspects of Ireland. I hope relatively soon to get up to Montpellier Hill and look at the history and the rumour, etc., surrounding the Hellfire Club. So that's kind of a mixture of both, really, that particular one. And as I say, as we're heading into the darker end of the year, we'll be heading towards Halloween and Samhain. I will be covering again the traditions around Samhain and Halloween, but I will also be covering things like the Bram Stoker Festival, which after a 2-year hiatus is back. It hasn't been on for the last couple of years, given that we have been living in a world more bizarre than a Bram Stoker novel. But after 2 years it's back, so we will be covering that and looking at the festivities surrounding this great author and his famous piece of work, Dracula. And then obviously following on from that, once that's over, we'll be heading towards Yule and Christmas and the huge amount of traditions that centre around Christmas, that originate in the pagan festival of Yule, all the pagan traditions that followed on into the Christian tradition, and the mashup of that resulted in the quasi-pagan Christian festival that we basically celebrate today. Away from those particular, away from the Sabbaths and so on, other videos I plan to do are things like the statues of Dublin. There is a lot of statues around Dublin. Some are to entertainment, like the Phil Lynott statue or the Luke Kelly statue. Then there's others around politics, around 1916 rise and earlier politics, and some back to British rule. We'll have a look at all those and find out why certain statues from British rule survive into now and a lot didn't. I'll also be covering things like Dublin slang. There's a lot of Dublin slang still used, and there's some has fallen out of use, and some that even Dublin people don't know what they mean. They only pop up in old songs or poems or something, like the Waxy's Dargle. The Waxy's Dargle, a lot of people don't know. A Waxy was a shoemaker, and a Dargle was called after the River Dargle. Nowadays people go on holiday all over the world, they go everywhere, but back in the day, believe it or not, a good day out and a good holiday was a trip to the banks of the Dargle River. So a Dargle became the word for a day out. So Waxy Stargle is simply a shoemaker's day out. Little pieces of useful information like that. We'll probably have a look around Dublin at some stage. I'm probably looking at next Easter for this, but I'll look around Dublin at some stage at the sites of the rebellion, where the main strongholds were and what happened on those sites. That's the sort of thing that's been done so many times, but we'll try and have a look at it from probably different angles. As I said, we will certainly be looking over the next few months as we head into the dark part of the year, the dark history of Dublin. And Dublin has some very dark history, not just supernaturally creepy dark history, but it has some just physically dark history. Ireland's an ancient land, and it has a long and often sad, often tragic, often brutal history, and we'll have a look into those, but everything won't be dark. We'll have a look into the brighter side too. We'll have a look into hidden Dublin. There's a lot of little hidden gems around the city that doesn't even crop up in the guidebooks, doesn't crop up on the walking tours. Little things that people don't know. I won't say yet because part of the spoilers. And we touched on the Bram Stoker Festival earlier. I will also be looking at Literary Dublin. There's a big literary tradition here. Ulysses will be a video in itself, but we'll be having a look at Joyce. We'll have a look at O'Casey. Obviously Bram Stoker. We'll have a look at all the literary greats, Brendan Behan, that stemmed from or lived at some stage in Dublin, and we'll have a look at all that. But it'll be primarily, especially if we're heading into winter, mostly Dublin that I'll be dealing with, but I'm not only going to be dealing with Dublin, I'll be heading around the country as well. September the 4th this year is actually the 70th anniversary of The Quiet Man. An interesting picture, 70 years on. What do we think of it? I'll hope to head down to Cong and have a look at some of the places where it was filmed, and we'll have a look at its legacy. I mean, it's very dated, of course, its attitudes are dated. It had a lot of Irish stereotypes, that we like a drink and we like a fight, neither of which are entirely untrue, but we'll have a look at that and why quite a lot of Irish people still like it, despite its stereotypes and its outdated attitudes. And we'll have a look at why people really don't like it for the same reasons. So, like it or not like it, it's one of the very early depictions of Ireland, rural Ireland in Hollywood, and it's interesting to have a look at as a piece of social history and say, well, where does it fit and what relevance has it got, if any, for today. So we'll have a look at the like of that. We'll also, once we get outside the capital, be having a look at the like of megalithic sites. And as I said, I do the statues of Dublin. I will also do the statues of Ireland, which is obviously a bigger project because I have a bigger geographical area to cover before I bring it all together. But that will be a project over the next while, and I hope to bring that to you. We'll have a look probably coming into next spring when most of them start to happen, because they'll be closing down now, although there are a few still to come. We'll be having a look at the festivals of Ireland, the like of the Puck Fair and the Horse Fair and things like that. We'll have a look around at the Festival of Ireland, hopefully go and visit them when they're happening and film and show you how they are celebrated today, and have a look at some old photos and things like that and see how they were traditionally celebrated and what their origins are. There are a couple of festivals in Ireland whose origins are very old. Some are more modern concepts, but we'll have a look at both. So we'll take you around Ireland in that way. As I said, it's a very mystical land, so we'll have a look at a lot of the sites. We'll have a look at some of the megalithic sites. So we'll cover all that. We'll cover all that area on the channel as well. And we'll also have a look beyond their shores. We'll have a look at the Irish diaspora and what effects they had abroad. Ireland has always been an emigrant race, so we went a lot of places and got ourselves involved quite often in wars, but quite often in other developments as well. Usually where England had a war, you usually found an Irishman fighting for the other side, and usually found some fighting for England as well. So, and even in the American Civil War, you had Irishmen fighting on both sides. So we'll have a look at that and how that came to be. And something that's often neglected is Ireland's involvement and influence on both world wars. I intend to do a video on that, and our involvement in sport and culture and that beyond our shores. We'll have a look at that. Now I've got there now quite a long list of videos I intend to do. I hope initially, as my channel progresses, to drop a video once a week at least, as I develop more frequently. Believe me, there's plenty of material to cover to keep us going for a while. If Ireland and all its aspects is something that interests you, maybe you'd like to come along, subscribe, hit the notification button so that you'll know when I'm getting new videos. I hope, especially now as I say, that we're entering into the more sedate part of the year where you tend to stay at home and watch things more often. I hope to entertain and inform you. I hope you like what I'm sharing, and as always, under the comments you can ask questions or disagree with me if you like, or say what you think about what I'm saying. We'll have a look at all aspects of everything that we can think of, and if you can think of something that I haven't thought of, please drop it in the comments and we'll add it to the list. So I hope to see you all. My first video, as I say, will be about Lughnasa, which will be getting dropped tomorrow because it is Lughnasa, and I hope you enjoy what I'm sharing. Have a good Lughnasa, and for now, slán.